We're live. Hello, everybody. You're listening to Restore the Republic, the voice of the people who's had enough. Enough of the corrupt judges, enough of the rogue cops, enough of the lawyers who twist the law and politicians who trample it. This is a show that dares to ask what happened to our de jure American government and how do we get it back? I'm your host, Sheriff Andrew Wank on the unincorporated Richland County, Ohio. And every week we expose the lies and decode the legal traps and empower you to reclaim what's rightfully yours. No fluff, no compromise, just facts. With me as always, Sheriff Adam Bonner on the unincorporated Summit County, Ohio. How's it going, Adam?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Doing good. A little tired, but other than that, doing pretty good. Yeah. Well, we got a special one today. You know, we been listening to the fiduciary talk here lately, and as of November 17th, she kind of declared it a national holiday, I would guess, or something like that. You know, I guess she's got a lot of information coming out that the U.S. military is now under our control, the way it should be. That's what she's saying. That's what she's claiming. I hope it's true. You know, we're all hoping that it's working out. You know, I guess they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we'll find out here soon. But she's thinking November 17th is called Homecoming Day, I guess. You know, she also said that they're working on bringing back the silver dollars, and they're going to be minted by the Federation. So that will be our lawful national money, I would guess. You know, because gold would be international. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it can be.
Can be. Well, this is the road to restoration, reclaiming the republic. So we got a little story to go over. Not really a story, just a timeline of events on what has happened, what's been going on, and what we can do about it. There we go. This is addressed specifically to Donald Trump, CEO of our subcontractor, and all foreign state governors who are responsible for the administration of the entire court system created by or under the Constitution of the United States of America, a British territorial state and state constitution, specifically created by persons for persons who declared they act in service to the people of these states of the Union.
Right. So, in law, derived from law of nature and all American common law. This is derived the law of nature and nature of God. Living things are separated from these dead entities, these usufruct names or corporations. Basically, those are a veil. You know, it's said to stand between those things, such as the law of the living. It does not pertain to the dead. Corporations in the law of the dead, corporations cannot trespass upon the living. So this is something where, you know, like when we say to these victimless crimes from statutes and codes, you know, no victim, no crime, no injured party, no sworn affidavit or complaint from an injured party, no crime. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about legal fictions or these corporations or dead entities. I know we really don't get that in depth, you know, into those types of things on here, but a lot of people keep asking, so there it is.
Yeah, we try to put them out there. We need the people to start self-governing, doing a little of their own research. You know, we're throwing out the bait. You need to take it in and go look at what we're talking about, basically, right?
Pretty much.
All right. Well, this corporate veil that you're talking about it's used to shield the owners, officers, and shareholders of a corporation from the seizure of their own assets. If their corporation goes bankrupt, but then the corporate veil can be pierced and removed. If, for example, the corporation commits fraud and other crimes, if the crimes are egregious and against the public interest, the corporation can be dissolved and the persons responsible for it can face loss of their own asset. You know, that's basically, you know, what we've talked about before, this what they call sovereign immunity, this line, or it's just a false pretense. You know, they have no sovereign immunity. If you commit fraud, you're going to be held accountable.
Right. So the law of the land maintains strict separation between the living and the dead, such that land and soil can only belong to living men and women, not commercial or municipal corporations. And not generally speaking, these legal fictions, two legal fictions of any sort. So, how we're always having these contemplations about property tax and taxation and how taxation is theft and was never lawfully ratified and stuff like that. Well, the argument is, how can something that exists on paper tax you for anything or claim that you owe taxes if it only exists on paper? And then we got puppets and vacated offices telling you that you have to pay per policy, per statute, per whatever. And so that's where the argument's at, and that's why we're talking about the history.
Yeah, I think the people, like I said before in the previous videos, everybody's starting to wake up. You're starting to see a lot more chatter on social medias, and it's getting out there. It's doing its rounds, and people are really soaking it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these courts have gotten around this by somewhat allowing the land to be held in trust. Even in national trust, they're supposed to preserve historical and religious sites that are of common cultural importance. But the overall thread and excuse for the existence of such trust is always that the land is being held in trust for the benefit of the living people to whom the land actually belongs to. They're pulling off this fraud as we speak, with what we're talking about. They bring you into these sea jurisdiction courts, like we've always said. You're not in there as a man or a woman. You are in there as a corporation, the all caps name. We all know it. They know it. And it continues to go on. So hopefully that'll end here soon.
Right. So if the land is held in trust, the donors must be able to dissolve the presumptions of a public trust in their favor. Otherwise, it is not a trust. It's an illegal and unlawful theft of assets and an abuse of governmental power, antithetical to any form of constitution or government. So, again, it goes back to usurpation, sedition, treason, lots of different things like that. And, certain things are in violation of trust and treaties as it is, or compacts, or, various other agreements and arrangements that are their obligation to uphold and fulfill. So, for instance, you go into one of these lower inferior tribunals that call themselves a court. It's a municipality, municipal court. Well, they're already acting administratively. They're administrators, trustees, and then they try to then convert you into the trustee and then abuse the shit out of you as a trustee because that's what they need you to be to get away with it.
Yeah.
So just an observation. We will get into that a little bit deeper in a later episode.
Yeah. But I guess the consensus would be is we're on to them. The people are on to them, and it's coming out. So
yeah, the jig is up.
Yeah, indeed. This creation of the land trust claiming to hold private property may be one of the chief objectives to treasonous individuals who have conspired to replace the American state republic government with a foreign democracy and undermine the constitutional government our country is owed. We've talked about that many times before. All you have to do is look at the contract that we have gave our subcontractors. It says right in there, guaranteed a Republican form of government. Pretty simple.
Right. So America's not a democracy. No state of the union has ever adopted democracy as its form of government. The only democracy here is the British territorial government of Puerto Rico and other U.S. territories. So, we are firmly one of the several other states. And usurpations and stuff like that piled up on against that notion. And then, it's perpetuated to what we have now. So we have basically a bunch of foreign actors, foreign agents, acting in positions that are still vacated. And they expect us to give them recognition. And I'm not giving anybody recognitions is not lawfully in a position. That's just as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, what pisses me off is these guys, these foreign actors, which they are, they're not filling out their FARA registrations.
No, they're not.
And those FARA registrations should be for the whole public to see and realize they are foreign actors. And, that would raise the question, what the hell do you mean you're a foreign actor?
And the
Well,
FBI is supposed to keep record of those FARA registrations. They're
yeah.
supposed to know who all the foreign agents are, and they're dropping the ball. So
Well, I'll tell you what, if my FBI agent friend down here, Jake's listening, you need to start doing that, Jake. Well, this comes as a shock to many Americans who have left unaware of their own history and who have been bombarded since grade school with newscasts about our democracy and how it's a danger to our democracy and the spreading of democracy to the rest of the world. But in truth, it's not our democracy, it's Britain's democracy. And it has usurped a total improper and illegal and immoral position through means of deceit, guile, and fraud upon us.
absolutely. So, what our government actually demands is self-governance via Republican assemblies of the people who live in this country, a form of governance akin to elderly and early Roman Republic. Our founders chose this form of government as the one most likely to achieve their vision of what our government should be. So, one, strictly limited; two, aligned with the laws of the Creator, nature's law; and three, recognize unalienable nature of our rights. And then four is to protect the people and punish evildoers. Five, and otherwise leaves us alone. So they should be leaving us alone. If you are status corrected, you're an American, you know who you are, and you have one of these foreign agents trying to enforce some type of code or statute or something of that nature onto you, it really should be as simple as just telling him, no, you got the wrong guy. Apparently you're thinking that I'm this type of corporation and I'm not, that you're a living man or woman. And it should be that simple. They should know that, they can be hung or they can be tried and potentially serve 99 years in prison, which is a life sentence, or it can cost them their life depending on how they escalate. That's the law. So
that is the law. Yeah. Well, what really gets me is the strictly limited. I think a lot of people just don't. I guess they don't know. They seem to think government is there to tell us how to live and what to do and how to think. And
it's actually the other way around.
And it's the total opposite.
Right.
Total opposite. It just blows my mind that everybody, in a day's time, you meet, talk to different people, friends, and just clueless.
Yeah, we're supposed to tell our employees what to do, what we want them to do, and they're supposed to listen. And when they don't listen and they go do what they want to do and then keep stealing from us and embezzling money overseas and then having it circulate back into offshore accounts, back into their pockets, now they're hiding in underground cities. Well, you can only live for so long before you're flushed out. You're not gonna last forever. Go read the Bible; it'll tell you a story.
Yeah,
all about that.
Yeah. Well, Adam was talking about our form of government. Now, here's the British territorial democracy in contrast to that. Number one, an all-encompassing top-down bureaucracy. They just we were saying. In our government, in the American government, the people are at the top. The people make the decisions. In this democracy, it's the government that's making decisions. And it goes down. People are the ones that take the brunt of all of it.
Americans are owed the first 10 amendments, and, the Bill of Rights, and, we have unalienable God-given inherent rights. And, all of these other things pertain to privileges, where your rights, you're unalienable, alienable and unalienable rights are converted into a privilege, which then can be, they can be, under such a guise that you would have to register, through registration or, to basically take that right further, solidify it through, non-full
Yeah.
disclosure, and
Well,
then,
your rights
charge
can't
you
be
for it.
taken from you, but your privileges can.
Right, right. So they're basically commercializing it for profit, and that's one way of trafficking that people don't talk about.
Yeah. So the British territorial democracy is all-encompassing top-down bureaucracy. Two, it's organized by Roman statutes and codes. We talk about those a lot. It's
Right,
not law, it's legislation. Three, it converts all rights into privileges, just like we were talking about. Four, punishes everyone to benefit the crown. The Crown Inc. That's who is chartered one of our foreign subcontractors. And it's an invasive. It is it's more invasive than cancer. Basically, that's what it boils down to.
right. So, which form of government are we owed? And which do we choose? Our American form of governance leads to peace, self reliance, and independent thinking. The British democracy leads to a coercive nanny state, which then translates into a police state, a hive mind, an abject of dependence or government. So, I guess if you're breaking that down, it's basically saying that. You need to be babysat because you can't self-govern, and that they need to take care of you and they need to offer you benefits,
Yeah.
through different types of non-disclosure documents pertaining to licensing or registration, titling, all of those types of things is what keeps you bound under all these regulations and regulatory actions.
Adam, we're living through it right now. The government, our service providers shut down. They shut down shop. And what was the big issue? SNAP benefits. Oh, people are going to starve. People are going to go hungry. Those are the people sucking on the teat.
They already had that resolved probably 2 months before it even became an issue. So on the surface, that appears what they were shutting down over, but it was something more sinister.
Yeah.
People just aren't paying attention.
Well, we think it's very clear what America chose and what we're choosing by expatriating our foreign citizenship obligations, merely presumed upon us or resulting from undisclosed registrations. We talk about that all the time. All these
Right.
everything we register is registered to our subcontractors.
Right. So, we also claim what we are owed from our British subcontractors, because that's all they are essentially, is just foreign subcontractor agents and franchise agencies, on top of franchise agencies, all the way down to, your counties and cities. So this is under our treaties with them and under our only service contract with them, the Constitution of the United States of America. So basically, that's the contract. That's what seals the deal. That's what keeps them obligated to, uphold and support that contract. And when they don't, when they're acting in bad behavior, this is where, it can go south from our perspective. As peacekeepers, those types of atrocities can lead to, like I said, Gitmo punishments, lots of various things like that.
Yeah. Well, how then have the Brits evaded their contractual obligations? By attempting to redefine Americans as British territorial U.S. citizens, a process known as unlawful conversion, which is strictly forbidden and is a capital offense. Capital offense under both the Hague and the Geneva Conventions. We have explained how they require their own citizens living in the country to register their babies, and how it was misapplied without full disclosure to the entire population. A lot of people didn't know. We had to figure this out on our own. And as a result, millions upon millions of Americans have been misidentified and registered as British subjects, and foreign forms of British territorial law have been misapplied to them as a result. Just like we're talking about,
Right.
these U.S. citizens are getting railroaded in these C jurisdiction court systems, and like we said before, there's no
Right.
remedy there. You're not going to find it.
Right. So, the only way to really remedy this is for the Expatriation Act of 1868, which allows that anyone can expatriate from any citizenship and revert to their natural birthright political status as a state national or state citizen. If you want to hold an office, fill out some more paperwork, get that filed with your land recording office, and boom, there you go. The only thing that would restrict you is if you have a past record of extortion or embezzlement or different types of fraud to do with money or violent crimes, those types of things. That would be the only thing. Other than that, our laws here are much different. We don't have all of the bastardized version of what the de facto government contractors do, or the agencies under them. It's not limited like that. It's not a good old boys club, because most of those guys get into these positions and they're criminal like-minded anyway with other criminals. They sweep stuff under the rug. So pretty much, then the British claim that we are stateless, because of our states of the Union have not been in session for many years. So we have to have Americans to have a State of the Union. It's that simple. You guys need to wake up. You need to come back to the land and soil. Come back home. We'll welcome you. Get your self-status corrected. But once our non-citizen and foreign status with respect to British territorial and municipal government is established, the States of the Union reappear as if by magic. Hocus pocus, poof, we're here. So, after we self-declared our will under the Expatriation Act and having reclaimed our proper political status and having served notice on the U.S. Secretary of the State, whichever state you reside, and I'm not saying under the Residency Act because that's nonsense. This is what's going on and who we are. Basically, it should entail, that your status corrected. It should have some type of claim as to what you're doing and why. And then, we have peacefully assembled and, our lawful state government and brought our states of the Union into session, all 50 of them, and we have held our state governments in continuous session for over for at least 5 years.
Oh, yeah, at least. And still, the British interlopers try to excuse their insupportable meddling and misrepresentation of us as British subjects and continue to act in treason against the American government and the people that they're supposed to serve in good faith. All employee working as territorial Ohio State troopers put on, and this could be any state. We're just saying the Ohio State troopers. It could be the Alaskan troopers, the Texas troopers. They put on a uniform of a municipal Ohio State trooper, which is in all caps because it's a corporation. And with no clue at all, they assume that he or she has the right to armed force to evict American landlords from their own land under the pretense that America owes taxes that apply to British territorial subjects and or municipal citizens.
Right.
You guys got to comprehend this. They're misidentifying you as one of their subjects. That's how they're getting these taxes pulled off on your ass, So you gotta get rid of their assumptions and presumptions. Like Adam said, reclaim your damn status, start working on your assemblies, and that's how we go.
Being an American national does not, congregate or assemble. It is stateless status off the shores of the U.S., and it's not in a good position. That's not what we're advocating for. And it doesn't reconstruct any lawful, constitutional republic. So, just to put that little bit of information out there. So the written expatriation from the British territorial citizenship has the following effect. One, it collapses the American infant vested in a state trust. They presume to exist when they issued a British subject's birth certificate and are given names. 2, it collapses the presumptions that we knowingly and willingly adopt British territorial U.S. citizenship and allowed the creation of a British territorial person and a state operating in our given name. 3, and then this then also collapses the assumption or presumption of municipal citizenship, because that additional obligation is only presumed based on the existence of a British territorial person. And without that valid British territorial U.S. citizen, all the chain of title is broken. So,
Boom.
and I'll tell you this, they see stuff like that get filed and they're just going to steamroll because it scares the hell out of them. They think they can just do what they want to do. And once you're there, they're just going to push a big red panic button, right? And have a bunch of people come out and jump on you. Well, that's going to basically have the same effect as kicking a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
So,
well, we've given notice to the U.S. Secretary of State and issued proper international identification credentials to our people, to the Americans. The men and women carrying this card has expatriated on the public record. That's what we all needed to do. You have to do the action. You have to publish it, make sure it's on public record, and bing, bang, boom. You're good. Nobody can claim that you were stateless or unknowing or acting in insurrection against our government. Likewise, nobody can claim that our government is absent or in any kind of interregnum, which means that we're not here. We've been conducting business, like we said, for over 5 years on both the local level and the state level. That's what we've been doing, getting bigger.
Right. So, let us pose the question to the international community. If a principal is under contract to protect a certain group of people and they hire a subcontractor to attack the same group of people, are they not in default of their own contract? Seriously, question yourself that. That is what has happened here. The British territorial government is under a service contract known as the Constitution of the United States of America, not for America, to protect the American populace, but instead they have hired municipal government subcontractors to displace and terrorize Americans under armed force. That's why I say that, I don't feel bad for them when they don't come to the table, because they're knowingly and willfully doing these things. Because if I'm on here right now telling the world, we know this is what you're doing, stop doing it, come to the table and
Hey, Adam, did you hit the mute button? I think you froze up. Yeah, you're froze up, or is it me? Damn, technical difficulties.
I don't believe so.
There you go. You're good.
Can you hear? Yeah.
You're good.
Did you hear everything I said or no?
A bit of it.
So you want me to go back over that?
Sure.
So I said before, let us pose this question to the international community. If a principal is under contract to protect a certain group of people and they hire a subcontractor to attack that same group of people, are they not in default of their own contract? This is what's happened here. The British territorial government is under a service contract known as the Constitution of the United States of America, not for America, to protect the American populace, but instead they have hired municipal government subcontractors to displace and terrorize Americans under armed force for victimless crimes, for statutes, codes, and ordinances. So
exactly.
If we're here telling people, this is what's going on, and that we know what's going on, and that we're giving them the option to, come re-educate and course correct, if they continue down this path, I don't feel bad for them with what's coming.
Yeah, they're knowingly doing it. We're giving them the education, we're giving them the information. They need to look at it. Well, anyways, this scandalous situation has been promoted and allowed by members of the American Bar Association in an illegal carpetbagger municipal court system, a private in-house corporation tribunal masquerading as a public court and misaddressing Americans under false presumptions of British territorial U.S. citizenship and municipal citizenship of the United States. A dual citizenship obligation known as federal dual citizenship, which does not naturally apply to any American state national. These courts are operating in unauthorized military districts that have no right or reason to exist within the borders of our states of the Union, and no right or reason to misaddress Americans if they were wards of their foreign territorial states or obligated to pay their taxes for them or in any other way encumbered the acts of their federal employees acting outside their established delegated authorities. Now, we come up upon that a lot. You know, they have basically 19 enumerated services that they're supposed to be providing us. 19, and that's it. They don't have, there's nothing else we need from them than these 19 enumerated services. And this shit has gotten way out of hand. And they know it. They know it.
Right.
And we're starting to find out, we're starting to know it. That's the problem they're having.
Oh, yeah. I could say probably going back more than 20 years. You know, it's been really obvious to me. And if, you know, back at that time I was in my early 20s, you know, or yeah, right in that ballpark. If it was relevant, you know, or obvious, you know, what they were doing to me and other people aren't noticing in the same age group, something's wrong. People aren't paying attention, or maybe they perhaps weren't raised, you know, to question everything and do independent research. But, you know, anyway, I guess is to each their own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, speaking on what you were just talking about, there are no authorized districts, military or otherwise, within the borders of the states of the Union, and there is no shared sovereignty. That's a crock of shit. So only strictly enumerated and delegated powers of sovereignty entrusted under contract. The only district authorized is the District of Columbia, and that 10 square miles. Purpose of the District of Columbia is to provide a common meeting place for the conduct of the business of the various federal subcontractors created by 1, the Constitution for the United States of America, 1787, 2, the Constitution of the United States of America, 1789, 3, the Constitution of the United States, 1790. So, the District of Columbia contains within its separate capital, known as the federal capital, which is the city of Washington, District of Columbia. Both of these are foreign with respect to the American government. So that would be us under our constitutional republic. You know, we do common law here, American common law, not parliamentary, which a lot of people seem to get mixed up. And, you know, just do your research. I mean, it's really not that hard. If you're having trouble, reach out to us. There's certain things we can't say on here, or we'll get slapped on the wrist and, you know, have to pack up and go to some other platform. So,
yeah, you know what's funny is that the history, it doesn't change anymore. It's there. It's set in stone. It doesn't change. So it's, once you learn this stuff, it all makes sense, you know?
Once you read it and see it, you can't unsee it. It just, you know, and the more educated you are, the more of an insult it is on your intelligence because of all the breadcrumbing and indoctrination that goes on in our education system, even in college at the higher levels. You know, I focused on engineering because I like math, but even math is a crock of shit. You know, it's not being practiced properly. And I don't care about E equals MC squared. I think that's a crock of shit. So, you know, we're just on to these topics where, you know, everything has been convoluted and watered down to cover up and suppress apparently the secrets of the universe, because that's the way they treat it with all this secrecy. I mean, it's so compelling on them to keep the secret, right? They can't let the public know because, you know, there will be an uprise and everybody's just going to blow a gasket.
It would break the matrix.
Right.
It'll be broken.
Right. Whichever version of this, you know, whichever dimension it is. So, I mean, yeah, you got to have a little bit of a sense of humor when it comes to this stuff, because it just the audacity alone, the sheer audacity that I'm going to be taught corporations history, and that's going to be passed off as our American history when it's not. That's the corporation's history, totally different.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
anyways, I'll digress.
in 1861, the British Territorial Rump Congress, created by Abraham Lincoln, usurped against the American federal government contractor and gained control of the city of Washington's government by default and deceit. This plenary oligarchy, which was intended to be entrusted to the members of the Federal Republic, which is the first constitution, created the Federal Republic. 1787 one. So this plenary oligarchy, which was intended to be entrusted by the members of the Federal Republic Congress, operated in 1787. Constitution began operating under the direction of members of the British Territorial Congress, who authorized the creation of a municipal corporation operating as the District of Columbia Incorporated. And they also thereby created the municipality of Washington, D.C. in 1871. And that was, we went over that before, haven't we, Adam? The Act of 1871 that basically incorporated Washington, D.C., and somehow got out of control from there. And, all this shit that's supposed to be inside them 10 square miles all of a sudden started getting leaked out to where they think they can do stuff out here now.
Well, the first proposal was rejected, and it took a few years to actually, get their way with it. But yeah, what you're saying is right. So, did you notice how it went from upper and lowercase spelled British of District of Columbia to all caps District of Columbia Inc.? Do you see what's going on there?
Corporation.
Anytime the jig is up and people are onto them, they just create a new corporation and they just change the spelling around. This is where the Styles manuals come into place, because it's going to help you comprehend what all of these different variations of spellings and capitalization, what it means, and that it's a crime to go against the basic laws of communication. And when you're not giving full disclosure that words that you're using, perhaps, this legalese or stuff out of Black's Law Dictionary or other various, sorcery, wherever those terminologies come from, it's a crime. Because whenever you're holding somebody to something that they're not aware of and then claiming that you have jurisdiction because, you said something that has multiple meanings, well, that's a crime. And it's also in the Styles manual that it's a crime and that they're aware that they're committing crimes. And whenever you call that out, or you just flat out fire them and, tell them to go reset their court, you're not participating in their legal process. You're not obligated to, especially when they're trying to steamroll on you like that.
Well, you know what? It's funny you brought up the Styles manual, because I just happened to be researching something in there the other day. And, you can find in there that it talks about the state nationals and how you would talk to them, how you would pronounce them, how you would write them out. It said, like Ohioans, Texans, Alabamans, So if it's in that style book and they're talking about our jurisdiction, our nationality, this shit is real, people.
Yeah. So Chicago Styles, what is that? 6th edition and 8th edition. You'll find a plethora of things in there, and what we just talked about, how things are being crimes when they're concealing meanings of words that they're using on you in these tribunals, or in various documents that you might get through your trustee or beneficiary's mailbox that they benefit from, how they do business. So that's a pretty creative way of saying that that's not you, the way that things are spelled on the letter. It's a name that looks similar, but that's not you. That's apparently they confused you with some fictitious entity. So, all these accommodations made between our two foreign federal service providers were not ratified by our states of the Union. and were interpreted as private business decisions made by our subcontractors for the conduct of their own operations. They do not, presuppose or any, what in the hell?
Deleterious effect, I
No,
think.
I wasn't looking at that. It was a comment. Yeah, deleterious effect on Americans or the American states and state citizens contracting for the services from these foreign entities based in the District of Columbia. So, that's going to be difficult. You'll have to watch the video a couple times. You got to kind of bang through these pretty quickly. I'll slow down, I guess, on the next one. So, armed trespass and criminally misrepresented court processes directed against peaceable Americans living in a state of the Union is a gross violation of the labor and service contracts that obligate both the municipal government under the Constitution of the United States and the British territorial government obligated under the Constitution of the United States of America. So, basically they're not holding up their end of the agreement. They haven't been for a very long time, and the people are getting fed up with what's going on. And we're trying to wake up peace officers and the like, any other agency, 3-letter or not, whether you're supposed to be here or not, doesn't matter. We're trying to get you guys to wake up because you're going to be subjected to things that you're probably not going to like. You're not used to being on that side of the equation, we'll say. You're used to basically being the one that speaks down, going after people, code breakers, Yeah, I get it. Violent criminals, that's great. Go after them, do what you got to do, terrorists. But to us, what you're doing to us with these things that you're trying to enforce for victimless crimes and what have you, those are actually acts of terrorism on Americans because we're not subject to that stuff. The only 4 to 6% of your garbage in the statutory civil equity system that can be enforced without it being a problem is if I murder somebody. Andrew beats somebody and violates them with a broom handle, something of that nature. Capital offenses, your essays, your murders, your what they would call vehicular manslaughter. You run somebody down intentionally out of anger. As it turns out, you wasn't having a seizure and you felt a couple bumps and you kept going. That type of stuff, yes, but possession of drugs, not a crime. You didn't, intentionally inflict harm onto another, living soul. Just having it's not a crime. Buying it's not a crime. Selling it without the intent to hurt somebody is not a crime under American common law. When people use drugs or they use substances, that's self-infliction. They're not going to be charged for self-inflicting whatever the outcome is, the reaction. That's not a crime. So if you find somebody dead, they OD'd, it's self-infliction.
Well, you know what?
They didn't harm anybody else.
I just want these 3-letter agencies that are in this country to go over the gosh damn Clearfield Doctrine, maybe the Chevron deference. You guys do not have the power you think you have. West Virginia versus EPA. Come on. Do you guys actually think we don't look at this shit? I mean, for the love of God,
Right.
It's out there. We know it. What do we say? The jig is up, people.
Well, I mean, it seems like as soon as something as big as Chevron, which has been going on far before, 82 or 83, when it was initially working its way up to the Supreme Court to 84, 85, being overruled, it got shot down. But it had been going on for decades before that. And people misconstrue that history all the time. Jarkissi versus SEC. People misconstrue the context and the meaning of what that outcome means for us. EPA West Virginia. Basically, it's saying that you don't have these perceived powers that you guys think you have to just be paperwork terrorists against American people. without giving full disclosure and, getting consent. You don't get to just do what you want to do. And it's not up to you. I didn't confer any power to you. I didn't elect you or vote for you to violate any of my God-given inherent rights.
Exactly.
We're not on that side of the fence. Therefore, don't come over here disturbing what we do over here peacefully
Exactly.
in our self-governance. So,
Well, yeah, the local government established by the American government is vested in our unincorporated counties, and no franchise operations hosted by our federal subcontractors or their hired agents have any business misaddressing us or misunderstanding our local as well as state authority and jurisdiction over the land and soil assets. These people should know this shit. They don't. We're teaching them. They're going to learn or they're going to be held accountable. The incorporated states have presumed to establish and operate and manage numerous land trusts in our names without the knowledge or permission and without any granted authority available to them from us, the actual people, the owners, to do so. Just like Adam said, we didn't grant you anything. And you can't do anything until I want to cuss, but
I'm telling you. Hey, among those lands illegally and unlawfully latched upon in so-called municipal land trust, managed as unauthorized municipal boroughs and incorporated county business structures that are, inhabited by foreign persons. I might add non-judicial persons. Both territorial and municipal, who are merely residing here among us Americans under the terms of the Residency Act or otherwise tag teaming along under an unauthorized association of separate and secondary service contracts in which the British territorial state of state government has hired municipal contractors as thugs to enforce territorial taxes on people who are not territorial citizens and who don't inhabit or populate territorial states. So this stands upon the established jurisprudence of this country, as expressed in the Clearfield Doctrine, that no incorporated entity operated in the character of a commercial franchise or municipal corporation franchise has any ability or authority to levy taxes as a government on the general population. To presuppose otherwise admits the liability of any similar corporation, for example, Raytheon Inc. or Raytheon Inc., all caps, to impose taxation on the people of this country, which is clearly not part of any principle allowing the existence of incorporated entities and franchises of incorporated entities, any authority whatsoever. They have none. It's simply just a paperwork game and just a keep away game.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, someone just asked in the chat a little bit ago, is there 2 constitutions?
There's 3, and then there's 50 state constitutions, which none of them have been lawfully ratified. Yeah. Chances are, if you go back to around 1800 to 1850s, 70s, maybe a little bit further, you'll find out that the people weren't ratifying them. Maybe they initially ratified the first one, but then the second one that was created, which might be, what's looming over you today, was written by governors, attorneys, mayors, legislators, people of that nature, and they did so without it being ratified or even a proposal to the people to look at and review. They just went in the middle of the night and did their little thing and ratified it. And that's why, I don't pay attention to the state constitutions too much.
Yeah. Well, I know it's not rocket science, but it is new to a lot of people, so those 3 contracts, they're constitutions. They're basically just contracts for service. So we gave these 3, the Americans, the people, gave these contracts to the first one to an American subcontractor known as the Federal Republic. That's where we get this Federal Republic from, the Republic. That was the first contract for them to provide us with services. Then there was more services needed. So the second contract, Constitution, went out to the U.S. territorial government. That is a foreign subcontractor. And then the third one went out to another foreign subcontractor, the municipal government. They're out, they're chartered by the Vatican. So we got in DC, there's supposed to be two foreign subcontractors and the American subcontractor. After the Civil War, it wasn't all reconstructed right. And all we have to this day is two foreign subcontractors acting as your government. And they're not your government. They're just a governmental service provider. Pretty simple. So I and other Americans who have seen through these venal and self-serving deceits and deceitfully similar names, who have expatriated from presumptions of foreign citizenship obligations, have every power and contractual right to demand immediate performance in our favor from the Provost Marshal of the U.S. Army and others owing us good faith service, to close down and liquidate the organizations operating district courts and municipal land trusts in the states of the Union, included but not limited to Ohio, and to the return of our lawful land and soil holdings to us and to our possessions and to our ownership without prejudice. So basically, we're telling them we want our shit back.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to say something that, upon, giving this history lesson to everybody, my intention is to recognize the people whose land was taken from them too. We have a lot of, Indians, their tribal law, a lot of it adopted American common law also, so we have attorney friends who do federal law and they also do tribal law, representing, these people that belong to, different tribal families and whatnot. So at least my intention is here, there's a lot of tribes that we had in the area around Summit that were shooed away, and a lot of them moved out of the state, and went and merged with other tribes and whatnot. So, that recognition I will, give. If they want to come talk, come to the table, I'd be more than happy to speak with them. So,
well, hell yeah, me too. I mean, you know what? Where I grew up in Ohio, it was full of full of battles. Battle of the Wabash, Fort Recovery, Ohio.
Yeah,
that was right in the county I grew up in. There was Indians, tribes all over the state.
Yeah, they came to battle with the militia against our northern, mitten-shaped state. Thought they were going to come down and take a chunk of Ohio. And, the Indians stepped in and said, not today, basically. And they merged with our militia. And, they held up excellent state border defense, to help our militia out. So I won't forget that piece of history. It needs to be spoke about more. So anyhow, a common law grand jury and trial jury of American state nationals known to be expatriated from federal dual citizenship and to be Ohioans or whichever state you reside, live, whatever you want to call it, standing on the land and soil of your state, have been called to take up the issue of law and fact and to make the necessary determinations, and all those in need of such notice are being informed either directly or through their agents. So that would be Governor DeWine here, and you've been noticed basically multiple times.
Yeah, Richard, better listen up. And Vivek, and who's that other lady running for some fake ass governor position? Ashley somebody, I think. I forget. I don't even pay attention to these clowns anymore.
I don't either. It's not even worth my time.
I know. Do you know what is funny? Is these clowns going around campaigning to be governor, and they say the same shit every freaking campaign. I can do this, I can do that. Sherrod Brown, I've seen this puke. He's back on social media telling people how he can fix things. He's been in damn government in these for subcontractors of ours for who knows, 30, 40 years. Hasn't done a
They're
damn
criminals.
thing. Nothing's
They're
changed.
criminals.
Yet he can fix it now again. What an idiot.
A lot of them sweep things under the rug for their other criminal buddies. These commercial sheriffs are criminals. A lot of chiefs of police do a lot of things, you know, doing their own internal investigations instead of having agreements with Leo trustees to, you know, come to the region and, you know, be able to have access to come in and do an internal investigation if need be. You know, they say they got internal affairs, and how are you going to? That'd be like, you know, me and you have known each other 25 years, and, you know, we're golf buddies. We go to the range. Our families share holidays together, and I'm supposed to investigate you for unethical conduct or, you know, beating the shit out of somebody. And it gets swept under the rug. That's criminal.
Yeah.
That is criminal.
Day. Well,
So,
let's wrap this up. I think we did a pretty good job today getting out some information. But, you know, if you guys look on the screen, check out these sites, pktfnews.org. Check out what the PKTF's doing, you know, and claimyourinheritance.info. You can get on there, download trifolds, download a lot of information. And then standup.land is a newer platform that's run from a lady, Karen Scalf, from South Carolina, I think it is. She's doing a really good job. So you might want to check that out. Easy way to paper up to get your change of political status.
she'll be a guest on here too soon to be able to explain all of that.
Definitely soon. And anyways, we do have a donation cash app. If anybody would like to donate, it's $APC140. It'd be much appreciated. If not, no big deal. So, Adam, let's get ready to go. And I just want you guys to remember, it's not all about you. It's about your children. It's about your community, your country. The system only works if you're asleep. If you stay asleep, so wake up, stand up, and speak up. Let's get it going, people. Let's get you changing those statuses, joining the assemblies, and self-governing.
Hey, thanks everybody for stopping out. I'll review the comments, and if I see anything needing responded to, I'll reach back out to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a great night.
Coming, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, Andrew.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, we're doing good things for you guys, though. It's for everybody. It ain't just for us. We're all in this together. Let's take back our country.
All right,
get in the right direction. All right, people. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you again next time. We'll see you guys later.